Alright. Here's that one. Republican drops out of presidential. Dozens of Dems demand explanation after Trump administration refuses to release Puerto Rico aid. How does President Sanders sound to you? Bernie surging in the drops out. I just don't. Dozens of Dems demand explanations after Trump administration again refuses to release Puerto Rico. More than 3 dozen Democratic lawmakers, including 9 from New York, are demanding that the Housing Secretary Ben Carson explain to them the person why his agency refuses to release billions of dollars in congressional-approved disaster aid relief to Puerto Rico. In a Monday letter spearheaded by Brooklyn Queens Rep. Nydia Velázquez, 41 Democrats said Carson's Housing and Urban Development Department (HUD) is breaking the law by withholding $8.3 billion in hurricane readiness funds for the U.S. Commonwealth without providing any real justification. In light of the back-to-back earthquakes that rocked Puerto Rico last week, Ben said Carson owes them, the island residents, immediate answers. Due to the emergency at hand, urgency of the situation, we are officially requesting an in-person. Your responsibility as Secretary of HUD to provide members of Congress an explanation as to why your department has chosen to violate the law by withholding these resources. Puerto Ricans have waited too long. Spokesman for Carson did not return a request for outstanding $8.3 billion is a part of a larger package of aid approved by Congress in September to bankroll housing redevelopment, infrastructure repairs, and economic revitalization projects in Puerto Rico, following the devastation caused by Hurricane Maria and Irma. The larger package, only $1.5 billion has. Speaking on anonymity, other officials said that the Trump administration has released aid out of unspecified concerns of corruption. I don't want this to go away. Alright, well. Puerto Rico should try announcing that investigating Hunter Biden. Should start begging the Trump vice parole or treat hotel. Here it is. Republicans don't believe that Puerto Ricans are Americans. Since they can't vote in Puerto Rico, they don't care. Bernie is surging and may have found his moment. I need to create an account with the Times. It's like, that sounds pretty fucking good to me now. Conservatism is white identity politics. Uh, Vice President Mike Pence will be granted in Kissimmee by Billboard slamming Trump over his response to the Hurricane Maria. Oh, look, and there's even a paper towel ad. When the Americans of Puerto Rico needed President Trump the most, he threw paper towels at them instead of releasing federal emergency aid funds. The Democratic Executive Director Juan Penalosa. Donald Trump is more interested in tweeting insults at his enemies than tackling spiraling healthcare costs, protecting American jobs, and the growing climate crisis. Billboards are part of an effort to make sure that Trump's lies, broken promises, and ineffective management are exposed. We deserve a president that is focused on improving our lives. Trump is not that president. CNN Sanders hit pieces journalistic outrage. CNN was yesterday this anonymously sourced hit piece out on Bernie Sanders claiming that in a meeting in Elizabeth Warren's home in December, he told her that a woman can't win the presidency. Wow, okay. The article by correspondent MJ Lee is journalistically shoddy. It's so journalistically shoddy that someone reading only the first few paragraphs would end up believing that it is a fact that the current top polling candidate for the February 3rd Iowa caucus actually said that. Never is Sanders' quote prefaced with the term allegedly. None of the four anonymous staffers' friends making the charge Sanders' sexism were actually witnesses who were apparently in the room that day. Two, according to Lee, spoke to Warren shortly after the meeting. The other two were described only as people who knew about the meeting. Sanders issued a blistering denial to CNN, saying it is ludicrous to believe that at the same meeting where Elizabeth Warren told me she was going to run for president, I would tell her that a woman couldn't run. It said that 3 weeks before the Iowa caucus and a year after that private conversation, staff who weren't in the room were lying about what happened. But I did say that night was Donald Trump is a sexist, a racist, and a liar who would weaponize whatever he could. Do I believe in a woman can win in 2020? Of course. After all, Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump by 3 million voters in 2016. So far, Warren has not commented on the story either to confirm or deny it. The timing of this poorly sourced and poorly written story appearing the day of crucial candidates debate and days before the start of the actual primary season on a network that has been hostile or dismissal of Sanders for years is a journalistic outrage. On its face, the claim allegedly made by Lee's former anonymous sources makes no sense. Sanders is in fact on the record as far back as 1988 saying, in my view, a woman could be elected president of the United States. As Sanders points out in his debunking of CNN's story, since then, a woman has actually won the popular vote for the presidency. Hillary Clinton, who Sanders campaigned for, could have won the Electoral College as well if she hadn't been neglecting campaigning in key battleground states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. However, CNN's sources allowed to make such an explosive, far-fetched claim anonymously. Anonymity is mostly justifiably granted to protect sources from retaliation for revealing damaging information about their superiors. Would Warren staffers, assuming they were the source, be fired for giving an accurate account of their candidate conversation? When corporate media withhold the name of sources to allow them to make attacks against rivals without political consequences, that is an abuse of anonymous sourcing. The most shocking thing to me about the Sanders-Warren story is that Donald Trump laundered money from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran and then ordered an illegal hit on its leader. This debate is being hosted by CNN, and literally the night before, arguably the most important debate of the race, a story suddenly breaks out which pits the two frontrunners against each other. A story this big will generate massive attention and clicks for CNN, as well as hurt the credibility of the two most progressive members of the race. Plus, you really mean to tell me that Bernie said last year a woman shouldn't be president? Think for a single second. Does that compete with literally anything Bernie has ever said in his whole life? I smell bullshit. The journalist who wrote the story seems to have a pro-Warren bias. Anyway, every story she's written in the past 4 months is pro-Warren. Fuck CNN. Someone with Warren as my number one, I refuse to quibble with Bernie supporters over minor differences and won't be baited into a fight by sensationalized. Conservatism is white identity. Ugh. It's amusing to watch Jonah Goldberg use the. Who's Jonah Goldberg? Journalist? Right's bullshit problem. No true conservative is supposed to be a true Scotsman. Unless you're very new to political debates, you're probably familiar with the No True Scotsman fallacy. My favorite practitioner of it is the Twitter account of the Socialist Party of the United Kingdom. Not like Beto O'Rourke's short-lived, yet somehow oddly interminable presidential campaign, the account can be relied on to do the work of normally reserved for historical strawmen. Records show that over the last 150 years, allowed socialist parties and governments have racked up an impressive string of errors, trivial scopes of horrific crimes against humanity. But on Twitter, if you dare associate any of these embarrassments with true socialism, there's a good chance that at SPGB account will appear like Beetlejuice upon hearing the name 3 times to haunt you. Will shout, "That's not real socialism," and then invoke some platonic definition of the term to prove that real socialists would never do the terrible things self-described socialists actually do in the name of socialism. Um, okay, so this whole article is just about how, it's a long article, about how you accuse socialists, you talk about socialism in other contexts, or in historical contexts, then socialists will jump in and say that's no true Scotsman and true socialism is something else. Amusing to watch Jonah Goldberg use the no true Scotsman fallacy to defend true conservatism. In a recent piece, he argued that conservatives were succumbing to it. Be that as it may, it's still somewhat refreshing to see Goldberg pleading with Republicans to have some respect for the concept of honesty. I struggle when I read these thought pieces by conservative commentators that are intended for strictly conservative audiences. It requires me to enter into their bubble of alternative facts, and I find it frustrating to have to accept the things that they take for granted just so I can follow along. Okay, so I think we might end up reading that piece a little bit more, but now I'm just going to read the Washington article and then we'll go back to it. It's an article. Okay, it's an article of faith on the right that Democrats are hopelessly wedded to identity politics. You guys read this? Make sure you can. An article of faith on the right that Democrats are hopelessly wedded to identity politics, and that conservatives don't care what color anyone is because they're all about principles. Oh, I should actually. Articles in Discord. Something I'm trying to do. Okay, so let's try to do that too. Oh, Johnny's awake. Article. Okay. The article of faith on the right that Democrats are hopelessly wedded to identity politics and that conservatives don't care what color anybody is because they're all about principles. Article of faith that okay, yeah. This is Goldberg's starting point where Goldberg's starting point, but what concerns him is that too many conservatives are beginning to act in a tribal manner with respect to Donald Trump. Careful to say that he expects office holders to be partisan and dishonest, but he'd like to hold everyone else to a higher standard. The most obvious problem here is that the Republican Party has long been a party that identifies with America's majority race and majority religion. This is right. This is the reason that the Republican base spends their evenings flipping between Fox News and reruns of the Andy Griffith Show. They want to return to a world where other races and religions are invisible. But Trump's white nationalism is less of an innovation than the same old thing with a few exclamation points thrown in for flair. Likewise, the tribalism on display with Trump isn't really about him. It's more about the joy that comes with gaining the freedom to be openly tribal as a white person. Trumpism is identity politics for whites, and undisguised racism is what makes it so appealing and pleasurable to folks who are tired of walking on eggshells. Democrats certainly seek to represent people on the basis of their identity. The Latinos did not automatically support Julian Castro's candidacy. Blacks did not flock to Kamala Harris or Cory Booker. These politicians ran campaigns based on policies, only some of which were of special interest to Latinos or blacks. In most examples, these policies are the consensus view of most Democrats, including the white presidential candidates. It is only the GOP that is based almost entirely on identity at the moment. Oh, he's a typo here. And that's because Trumpism has no consistent ideology from pro-whiteness. Goldberg complains that conservative colleagues sound like idiots when they say, "Shut up, Trump is a hero for wanting to get us out of endless wars, and he's a hero for being willing to get us into another one." He's right, they do sound incoherent, but ideology isn't what binds people to Trump, or conservatives to each other. Goldberg thinks that people have changed under Trump's leadership, but they've really become just clearer and more explicit. The GOP is a party for white people, and who want America for white people. This isn't new at all, but this is the first time these deplorables have been offered the unvarnished version. They don't care if Republicans remain the party of Wall Street and globalization and ownership just as long as it continues to pursue white nationalism in its messaging and its immigration policies. A couple of days after Trump was elected, I call this the Southification of the North. But another way of putting it is that the South took over the GOP and then took its message countrywide. In the Deep South, there's a party for whites and a party for blacks. It's been that way since the Civil War. Before 2016, that's not how people in the other parts of the country look at the two parties. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party who still don't want to look at politics this way. I'm glad that Goldberg is one of them. But he's basically saying that no true conservative would eschew all their values and respect for the truth in the pursuit of racist ideals. The problem is, that's a fallacy, and has been a fallacy with respect to the conservative movement from the very beginning. Alright, so now we're going to read the Goldberg article. Because this is I think these are good points. These are interesting points. And they're things that we kind of all agree on. So maybe if you're on the right, you probably won't agree. Alright, so here's a pithier illustration of the no-true Scotsman. This is good for anyone who doesn't understand no-true Scotsman. The no-true Scotsman goes like this. No true Scotsman likes light beer. And then someone else will say, well, Sean Connery likes light beer. And they say, well, maybe, but no true Scotsman likes light beer. And then you say, well, pretty sure Sean Connery is a true Scotsman from Scotland. In ideological debates, no true Scotsmanism is an attempt to separate intellectual and moral infallibility of the omelette from the grubby egg breaking required to make it. Since the theory is perfect, any disappointing results from applying the theory prove that wasn't real application of the theory. Language here is serves just to confuse. The schematics are flawless, says the engineer. It's not my fault the doorbell flushes the toilet. That's a better analogy. Generations of Marxists who have had intellectual honesty to admit the mistakes we made by the Soviet Union could not extend their intellectual honesty to the possibility that the theory itself is flawed. Hence that old standby, it's never been tried. Used by socialists, Marxists, libertarians, Great Society liberals, and other soldiers in the war on poverty, this variant of the true Scotsmanism, Brian Kaplan calls it the real X defense, is like a carrot dangled from a stick in front of the donkey's nose, an excuse to keep pressing forward, or to paraphrase related equine image beloved by Ronald Reagan, the real X is the pony that's got to be somewhere under all that manure. The thing is, conservatives aren't supposed to do this, for two very important reasons. The first, which I won't spend much time here, is that conservatism is anti-utopian and offers a partial theory of how to live. Political conservatism doesn't have a lot to say on what you should eat or wear or what movies you should love. I don't think one should go as far as philosopher Michael Oakeshott, who said that it is not at all inconsistent to be conservative in respect of government and radical in respect of almost every other activity. I think there's some inconsistency if you're radical in culture and religion, but etc., but not in respect to government or politics. Let me read that again. I think there's some inconsistency if you're radical in religion and culture, etc., but not in respect to government or politics. But you can see the point. Conservatism at its heart is comfortable with contradiction. And in utopian thinking, all contradictions are supposed to be wrenched out of society. No two good things need to be in conflict with one another. Is there an article for this? I don't understand the statement. It is not at all inconsistent to be conservative in respect to government and radical in respect to almost every other activity. Alright, so he's got another article that says when we say conservative, we mean, alright, so what does he mean? Dear reader, including those who self-describe translators who do not read newsletter but want to be considered for a person who does, writing from a parking lot in Williamsburg, Virginia, my Bahama shirt. Alright, great. Smoking a cigar? I'm okay. I'm here because I'm conservative. Put it more clearly, I'm here to give a talk about what it means to be conservative. That is ridiculous. What does this guy even look like? I gotta find out. Go now. Oh, that makes sense. American conservative syndicated columnist, author, political analyst. Oh, he went to Gasher. Okay. I'm here because I'm a conservative. Put it more clearly, I'm talking about what it means to be conservative. An outfit called the Congressional Institute asked me to come speak at the venture capital called Mucky Muck GOP aides on the question, why are you conservative? And since I don't have much time to write a good newsletter, never mind for growing talk, I try to kill my bird. 2 birds, 1 stone. That's pretty fine. I like some definitions better than others. What is conservatism? Abraham Lincoln famously asked, is it not adherence to the old and tried against the new and untried? That's pithy, but it's less of a definition than a verbal clear. Russell Kirk, by his brilliance and erudition, was never my cup of tea, offered 6 canons of conservatism. I edited them down, but you can follow this link. Oh yeah, I need to... Discord. Okay. Oh, this. Right, so Russell Kirk describes 6 canons of conservatism as 1, a belief in a transcendent order or body of natural law which rules society as well as conscience. True politics is the art of apprehending and applying the justice which ought to prevail in community of souls. Okay. 2, affection for proliferating variety and mystery of human existence as opposed to narrowing uniformity, egalitarianism, and utilitarian aims of most radical systems. Conservatives resist what Robert Graves called logicalism in society. Okay. Conviction, number 3, conviction that civilized society requires order and classes, as against the notion of a classless society. So conservatives believe that civilized society requires order classes. With reason, conservatives have been called the party of order. If natural distinctions are effaced among men, oligarchs fill the vacuum. Okay, I see this in conservatives. But I mean, how many conservatives like come to their conservatism from a logical point of view? Perhaps if you identify with the label conservatism, but how many Republicans identify with these conservative? I wouldn't say that many. Or I should say, how many Republicans identify with conservatism because of these labels? I think that they just have associated the 2 words conservative and Republican, and they mean slightly different things to most people. But what do they actually mean is kind of nebulous and vague. Persuasion that freedom and property are closely linked. Separate property from private possession, and the Leviathan becomes the master of all. Economic leveling they maintain is not economic progress. Number 5, faith in prescription and distrust of sophisters, calculators, and economists who would reconstruct society upon abstract designs. Custom, convention, and old prescription are checks both upon man's anarchic impulse and upon the innovator's lust for power. Okay. But conservatives don't trust economists, I guess. Recognition that change may be not salutary reform. What does this mean? Salutary. Salutary? Salutary. Oh, I don't want salutary neglect, I just want salutary. Health giving, or in reference to something unwelcome, unpleasant, producing good effects. Salutary reminder of where we came from. So, producing good effects, even if where it's coming from is bad. Okay. Recognition that change may not be salutary reform. Hasty innovation may be a devouring conflagration rather than a torch of progress. Society must alter, for prudent change is the means of social preservation. But a statesman must take providence into his calculations, and a statesman's chief virtue, I think Plato and Burke is prudence. One of the problems with the term conservative is that unlike socialist or even progressive, it can mean wildly different things in different cultures. I agree with all of these in the context of Anglo-American tradition. That's partly pithy. One of the problems with the term conservative is that unlike socialist or progressive, it can mean wildly different things in different cultures. Samuel Huntington made this point in his brilliant 1957 essay, Conservatism as an Ideology. Conservative in America wants to conserve radically different things than a conservative in Saudi Arabia, Russia, or France. Even British conservatives, our closest ideological cousins, want to preserve the monarchy, an institution which we fought a revolution to get rid of. In the Soviet Union, the conservatives were the ones who wanted to preserve and defend the Bolshevik Revolution. So, similarity here is preserving the old values, right? Not change, resistant to change, which is reflected in the name. Americans' founding doctrine is properly understood as classical liberalism, or until the progressives stole the label, simply liberalism. See, I'm always confused what people mean by classical liberalism, because what I understand as classical liberalism is that everything is permissible until it's not, basically. So, like, my freedom to move my fist uh, stops before your face, sort of thing. Until socialism burst on the scene in Europe, liberalism was universally understood as the opposite of conservatism. Right? We're being very vague and nebulous here. That's because European conservatism sought to defend and maintain monarchy, aristocracy, and even feudalism. The American founding, warts and all, was the hypothesis of classical liberalism, and conservatism has always been about preserving it. That's why Friedrich Hayek, in his fantastic and fantastically misunderstood essay "Why I'm Not a Conservative," could say that America was one polity where one can be a conservative and defender of the liberal tradition. It's also why I have a problem with people who say that American conservatism is classical liberalism. As a shorthand, that's fine by me. Philosophically, I'm not sure if this does the trick. There are many, many rooms in the mansion of classical liberalism, and none of them, properly speaking, conservative. Anarcho-capitalists are blast of parties. A tattoo over. Is there a difference between the old conservative party? Is there a difference between the old conservative party being neoconservatism? So I'm all these words are really vague, right? The labels feel really vague for me. So what does anyone mean by neoconservative? Oh. Relating or denoting a return to modified form of traditional viewpoint, in particular, yeah, this is not very good. Let's look at old. Neoconservative, short into neocon, is a political movement born in the United States during the 1960s among liberal hawks who became disenchanted with the increasing pacifist foreign policy and the growing left in the counterculture, and particularly Vietnam protests. Some also began to question their liberal beliefs. So neocons are like conservative hawks. We have Anton Scalia, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Milton Friedman, Jack Kemp, William Buckley, Ronald Reagan, Calvin Coolidge. Let's look at usage and general views. During the early 1970s, Michael Harrington was one of the first to use neoconservative in its modern meaning. He characterized neoconservatives as former leftists whom he denied as socialists for Nixon, who had become more conservative. These people were tended to make neoconservatives as former leftists, who derided as socialists for Nixon. People tended to remain endorsers of social democracy, but distinguish themselves by allying with the Nixon administration with respect to foreign policy and their endorsement of using the Vietnam War. They still endorse the welfare state, but not still in its contemporary form. Irving Kristol remarked that a neoconservative is a liberal mugged by reality, one who became more conservative after seeing the results of liberal policies. Kristol also distinguished three aspects of neoconservatism from previous times. Neoconservatives had a forward-looking attitude from their liberal heritage, rather than reactionary and dour attitude of prior conservatives. They had a ameliorative attitude, proposing alternate reforms rather than simply attacking liberal reforms. Okay, so in this perspective, neocons are kind of forward-moving conservatives. Whatever that is. Foreign policy. I'm trying to like summarize this briefly, but this language is, in general, feels really vague. I'll let you know I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter. Can you try to explain a little bit what you mean by that last statement? Because I'm trying to understand it a little bit, but I'm not exactly. I don't know exactly what you mean. Friction with other conservatives, friction with paleo-conservatives. Okay, let's look at friction between conservatives. In their book, it doesn't so. Oh, maybe you guys can't read this. Reading it a little bit. Many moderate conservatives oppose neoconservative policies and have sharply negative views on it. For example, Stephen Halper and Jonathan Clark, a libertarian based at Cato, in their 2004 book on neoconservatism, America Alone, the Neoconservatives and the Global Order, characterized neoconservatives at that time as uniting around three common themes. Okay, so the first theme is that a belief deriving from religious conviction that the human condition is defined as a choice between good and evil, and the true measure of political character is to be found in the willingness by the former themselves to confront the latter. Alright, so like this is just like completely out of the blue. Like I don't see any of that in the word neoconservative or even in people that have been described as neoconservative. I don't see any of that. An assertion that the fundamental determinant of relationship between states rests on military power and the willingness to use that. Okay, that's what I see. Definitely. Primary focus on the Middle East and global Islam as a principal theater for overseas interests. Okay. In putting these themes into practice, neoconservatives analyze international issues in black and white and absolute moral categories. They are fortified by a conviction that they alone hold the moral high ground and argue that disagreement is tantamount to defeatism. Okay. I definitely see this. Focus on the unipolar power of the United States, seeing the use of military force as the first, not the last option of foreign policy. They repudiate the lessons of Vietnam, which they interpret as undermining American will towards the use of force, and embrace the lessons of Munich, interpreted as establishing the virtues of preemptive military action. 3. Neoconservatives disdain conventional diplomatic agencies such as the State Department and conventional country-specific realist and pragmatic analysis. They are hostile towards non-military multilateral institutions and instinctively antagonistic towards international treaties and agreements. Global unilateralism is their watchword. They are fortified by international criticism, believing it confirms the American virtue. So far, a lot of this kind of sounds very Trumpian, I would say. But again, Trump doesn't actually like have policy; he just lies by this. Number 4, neoconservatives look to the Reagan administration as exemplar of all these virtues and seek to establish their version of Reagan's legacy as the Republican and National Orthodox. George Bush, Jeb Bush, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, Chris Christie, Tom Cotton, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Mitch McConnell, Tim Palti, Paul Ryan, Marco Rubio. Alright, let's keep going in this article. Make sure. Alright, so anyone stopping and we're reading about this article by Jonah Goldberg. When we can say conservative, we mean. This is actually an old article, but the reason we're reading it is because we're coming up from this other article, The Right's Bullshit Problem, which is written by the same author. This is a right wing author who is couching his conservatism in more ideology than the current Republican Party, perhaps. Let's get back to where we were. Defining conservatism is actually very, very hard. When Frank Meyer asked my old boss to define it for the seminal collection, What is Conservatism?, Buckley submitted an essay titled Notes Towards an Empirical Definition of Conservatism, reluctantly and apologetically given by William F. Buckley. Bill was no freaking violet philosophically, so it says something that was like pulling teeth to get him to offer a definition of the cause that animated his life for. And yet, at the end of the day, all he could muster were some notes towards one. Isn't this interesting? That these people can't even actually define their positions. I think this is because conservatism isn't a single thing. Is it that, or is it just because like you guys have a feeling and you just kind of go by feelings rather than facts? That'd be interesting. Indeed, as I've argued before, I think it's a contradictory thing, a bundle of principles married to a prudential and humble appreciation of the complexity of life and the sanctity of successful human institutions. This reminds me of one of my favorite all-time mediations on conservatism from my friend Yuval Levin. In my mind, conservatism is gratitude. Conservatives tend to begin from gratitude for what is good and what works in our society and then strive to build upon it, while liberals tend to begin from outrage at what is bad and broken and seek to uproot it. I disagree completely with that. Conservatives begin with gratitude, maybe like gratitude for the past, not gratitude for what is good, because obviously what is good is whatever agrees with your opinion. Gratitude captures so much of what conservatism is about because it does not. I've never, I don't know many conservatives who are like, oh my god, so much gratitude right here. Because it highlights the philosophical difference between American conservatism and its foes on the left, and some of its friends in the libertarian camp. The yardstick against which human progress is measured shouldn't be the sentiments and yearnings that define some unattainable utopian future, but the knowable and real facts of our common past. Cedar. Bernie told Warren that women can't win. He's a dick. We don't actually know if that's true. So, where everyone like this isn't a fact. You know that, right? Like the CNN article is really sketchy. That was actually the first article I read today. There's like four people reporting on the or four supposed witnesses, but only two of them might have been at the meeting, and two of them talked to Elizabeth Warren. And the meeting was a year ago. It was super vague. CNN's just trying to get clicks. I mean, they're not going to fight each other. Okay, Goldberg continues. This is a long ass article, but we're doing well so far. I think we're going to keep going because I need to understand what I want to understand what he means by conservative. So-called liberals love to talk about how much they want to do they just want to do what works. It's amazing how often what works doesn't. Even more remarkable, this is not supported by facts, right? Do you have any reference to this? Like, can you support this as well? Even more remarkable is how the mantra of what works is almost always a license to empower the sophisters, calculators, and economists. Okay. In contrast, the conservative belief in what works is grounded in reality, not hope. Okay, prove it. Gratitude is just one facet of love, which is why conservatism is inextricably bound up in patriotism. Uh, okay. This is what is all this? It's just like, oh, conservatism is gratitude and love and patriotism. To be patriotic, one must love one's country for what it is, not what it could be. Only the right people were allowed to change it. Stupid. We love people for what they are, not what they could be. If you think you love someone or something for what not what it is, but what solely it could be, it's not love, it's lust. This is so stupid. Like, if you love someone, you might want to help them out, right? Also, like, maybe I love the country, and not only do I know what it is, but what it could be. So I love it for what it is. I also love it for what it could be. Always understand that what it could be is better, right? That's what progressive is. Comfort with contradiction. Okay, this is important because he mentioned contradiction earlier and how conservatives are okay with contradiction. Now he's getting to this. I've argued before that conservatism, properly understood, demands comfort with contradiction. Okay, so my opinion is that you should not and could never be comfortable with contradiction because it doesn't work. You can't have contradictory viewpoints and be like, oh yeah, but they both make sense together. I mean this in the broadest metaphysical sense, in the narrowest practical way. Okay? So think of any left. See, really annoying that you're trying to define your position on the right, and then you go, think about the left. Okay? Think about any leftist ideology, and at its core, you'll find a faith that circles can be closed, conflicts resolved. Marxism held that in a truly social society, contradictions would be destroyed. Freudianism led the left to the idea that conflicts between inner and outer self were cause of unnecessary repressions. Who's he quoting here? Is he quoting himself? Like, this looks like a big quote, but like, is it from this article? Yeah, it's from. He just keeps citing his own articles. Uh, do we believe that a society could be made whole if we jettison dogma and embraced a natural, organic understanding of the society where everyone worked together? This is an Americanized version of a German idea where the concepts of the Volkgeist, spirit of the people, have been elevated to a point where society was seen to have its own separate spirit. All this comes in big bunches from Hegel, who after all, had his conflicting thesis and antithesis merging into a glorious thesis. It's worth noting that Whittaker Chambers, because he could never judge in his faith himself. Okay, so none of this means anything. Thank you for telling me up. Man is flawed, the world is imperfect, youth is fleeting, life isn't fair. Conservatives are comfortable acknowledging all these things. It doesn't mean we're complacent or opposed to change. We're humble about the kind of change that are possible and grateful. No. You're humble about the kind of change that are possible. You just don't believe it can happen. Liberals love to talk about diversity, but they're constantly at war with any meaningful forms of diversity that conflict with their worldview. As I keep saying, right wing has simply come to mean non-compliant. Appears to be the case. We have like the book kind of sucks the more I read it. Alright, I don't think we got anywhere with that actually. Does anyone here think they got somewhere? I know right conservatives are hypocrites because they hate Native Americans who've been oppressed. Yeah, there you go. Alright. Now I'm wondering if I want to read his other article because that other article kind of baited me. Alright, well, if you guys want to read this article, I think it's relatively interesting, but it's way too long. I'm not talking about voting, I'm talking about telling the truth. Let's try to get to his summary. Okay, I think this paragraph seems to summarize a lot of what's going on here. This all matters, not just because telling the truth always matters. The arguments for giving into tribal politics of misplaced loyalty at this point are familiar. You have no other choice, hang together or hang separately. Look at how great the judges are, look at how terrible the Democrats are, etc. Some of these arguments are not without merit. From a conservative voter's perspective, Trump's judicial appointments alone are a powerful case for holding one's nose and putting up with Trump. and many of the second-rate goons, trolls, and bros who have risen to prominence as conservative leaders on the right, starting with Donald Trump Jr. But I'm not talking about voting. I'm talking about telling the truth. The problem with arguing for holding one's nose is that at some point, many people grow weary of it and decide to put up with the stench. Some even grow like it. How many former conservative Trump opponents have gotten used to him, even though he's proved to be precisely the man they opposed? That's what happens when you give in to tribalism. It starts to make sense. It even starts to feel natural, in part because it is natural. But part of what it means to be conservative is understanding that not everything that is natural is good, and not everything that is unpopular is wrong. Alright, so I put I, I put this in the Discord. If you guys want to read these articles, they're interesting. It's always good to hear someone on the right try to fight against their own party's interests in some sense. So read some comments on it. Who am I voting for this year? Probably Warren in the primary. Any Democrat in there. Yeah. Beyond near white identity politics for my combos with conservative friends, family, and internet randos. It's now predominantly white male Christian grievance politics. I think that's a good description. It used to be hidden behind dog whistle language and supposed socioeconomic accents, but now it's just blatant slash and burn. With the Iran stump, they just helped their ISIS cousins. I always wonder why Trump wants to help ISIS recruit more members. I remember the only difference in skin is skin color after all. It is racist to say they're different. Al Qaeda is the base in Arabic. Y'all Qaeda loves to call them the base. Al Qaeda hates liberals and Soviets. Al Qaeda hates liberals and Soviets. Al Qaeda loves to pick up trucks with guns. Al Qaeda likes rolling coal with guns. Al Qaeda wants to implement Sharia law. Al Qaeda wants to implement the Christian version of Sharia law. Al Qaeda tells women what to do. Al Qaeda tells women to birth their child. Al Qaeda trains the military, their militia against American soldiers. Al Qaeda trains Confederates against American freedoms. Al Qaeda is funded by Reagan. Al Qaeda loves Ronald Reagan. How great. Funny how this needs to be said, but it really does need to be said. I've been telling people this for years, particularly a lot of my right wing friends that keep bashing the left for its identity politics. I always like to point out to them that the right wing is nothing but identity politics. Hijacking your comments earlier, a friendly reminder that freedom of choice talking point originates from freedom of choice of schools. There are private academies that are created in response to the South Carolina decision on segregation. Oh, Supreme Court decision on segregation. They only accepted white students. The Supreme Court ruled these schools unconstitutional in the 70s. Nowadays, they brand themselves as private Christian academies. Just remember what Betsy DeVos is saying when she's just really talking about when she champions freedom of choice. Good point. Cool. Iowa white primary for Warren would be interesting. How many counties she wins? I totally agree. Iowa primary would be very interesting. Are there 93? Okay. Yeah, Iowa primary would be super interesting. And it's gonna probably determine who gets out of the race, right? And then, so what we talked about yesterday was a little bit of who people's second choices are. So how are people gonna split afterwards? Really interesting. Okay. Article. If you guys want any, if you guys have any news articles that you want me to read, feel free to like PM me or put them in the Discord and I'll try to. I'm not sure how long have we been live? Been live for almost an hour, so not sure how much longer I'll go. Probably at least half an hour. Mitt Romney says he'll vote to hear Bolton testimony. Okay, I mean we don't even have to read the article. The narrative collapses as Trump tweets, "It doesn't really matter." What? The untold story of how Trump's fixtures silenced Stormy Daniels just days before the 2016 election. Okay. McConnell doesn't have the votes to dismiss impeachment articles or block witnesses. Former FBI official. This is a full-on attack on our 2020 election. CNN Sanders hit piece doesn't pass the smell test. We already talked about that, but it definitely doesn't. Bernie Sanders leads an Iowa poll. Okay, let's definitely look at that. Let's look at that one first, actually. I don't want to watch a whole video on this. Iowa caucus, Democratic. These numbers. Into your head. This is amazing, actually. Look at Warren, 17%. Biden, 15%. Warren is definitely within the margin of error. And if these guys leave, or not Biden, Biden won't leave. I can't believe Pete Buttigieg is doing so well, but he's from South Bend. So, if these guys head out, their voters are going to split up. And I think the Yang Gangers were going for Bernie. I don't remember where Klobuchar's people were going. It will be decided on February 3rd. Yep. Narrative. Okay. Oh, I can't read this article. Alright, well. Read comments. Doesn't really matter that I lied. Fuck you, America. My followers will eat my shit regardless. This right here is what all the attack ads should look like this summer. Not from the eventual candidate, but whoever that is, but those dark money groups like Save America from Tyranny or whatever they'll be called. Just plaster hit pieces like this all over the airwaves. Pinned up language about alien linkers and about himself lies constantly and sees the country as a personal moneymaker. It obviously won't change the mind of the diehard cult members. It'll sway some on the fence to not vote or give the other side a chance. Instead, it'll probably get boring messages about unity and how strong we are when we're together. No good. Narcissist prayer. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, it wasn't that big a deal. And if it is, it was not my fault. And if it was, I didn't read it. If I did, you deserved it. Haha, that's gotta trigger the libs. GOP, you're mostly fine. Carl doesn't have the vote to dismiss witnesses. As Mitch McConnell's promise of total coordination with the White House backfired, according to several Monday reports, not only is Mitch McConnell short of the 51 votes required to promptly dismiss the articles of impeachment per Trump's tweeted desire, he may also be forced to hear testimony from former Trump administration officials. McConnell has made it clear to his colleagues that he wants Trump to emerge victorious in the trial, and he's not willing to hold a vote that could fail. He is keenly aware of what a vote this would look like politically, according to Republican senators, and shepherded his conference away from the idea for several weeks. Careful what you wish for. If Democrats get their witnesses, Bolton and Mulvaney, Republicans will want reciprocity. Hunter Biden, whistleblower Schiff, Joe Biden. Garber wrote, if subpoenas issued to all, only one side can claim immunity and executive privilege. May have little to lose in Stonewall. Yeah, I mean, even these witnesses testify, like Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, like, I don't know, it's just a distraction, right? So it depends on whether or not people will see through the distraction. But these witnesses, what are they going to testify about? There's not much for them to talk about. Obviously, the GOP is going to try to hound them and do everything. And if Mick Mulvaney and John Bolton testify, then we can get to the real, actual evidence in the case against Trump and conspiring with Ukraine. What's up, Pony Tony? Me and my neighbor were watching our debate the other night. Oh, okay. How'd it go? I see you've changed your number. Did you enjoy the debate? Did you enjoy rewatching it, I should say? Why did some only show me videos?
When odors appear.
Oh my god. Okay. I don't care enough. Impeachment trial. 66% of Americans want John Bolton to testify. Oh, Pony Tony, you missed. I don't know if you were here. I was just reading like 2 articles on like what makes a conservative and stuff. Should have been there for that. Very interesting articles. Soleimani is dead, Iraq is in chaos, and ISIS is very happy. Yeah, this is our problem, right? When we do interventions like this, we leave these huge power vacuums. Here's one. Trump campaign advisor pleads guilty to child porn sex trafficking. This is George Nader. Transporting and possessing pornographic images of children, including some featuring toddler-age boys, baby goats, and other farm animals. What the fuck? I think it's a good time to remind everyone that Trump only hires the best people. Can you imagine what right-wing media would be like if this was a Democrat? Trump impeachment text messages and images that it could expose the president's Ukraine dealings handed over to the inquiry. This is like from Web Harness. So who did they go to? Why is it that I can only watch? Here we go. One of Trump's attorney. Where am I getting my news from? I'm on the politics subreddit right now. Our politics. So this is from independent.co.uk. So this article. One of Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani's Ukraine American allies has handed over a web harness associated for campaign finance violations in October, has given a committee cache of WhatsApp messages, text messages, and images which detail interactions with a number of individuals relevant to impeachment inquiry. Wait, who did he give the cache to? Mr. Bondi has turned this over. So is this, did they turn it over to the House Intelligence Committee? You beautiful man. Giuliani Parnas. Parnas and Freeman are allegedly something player, John Dowd. Okay, I don't know. Without recent escalations or plane crash, victims would be home with their families, said Trudeau. Russians hacked Ukrainian gas company at the center of impeachment. Russians hacked Burisma? I can't read New York Times articles. Alright, let's read the comments at least. 716 Redux. Experts say that the timing and scale of the attacks suggest that the Russians could be searching for potentially embarrassing material on the Bidens. Same kind of information that Mr. Trump wanted from Ukraine when he pressed for the investigation of the Bidens and Burisma, setting off a chain of events that led to his impeachment. There are no nefarious mysteries about Hunter Biden's relationship with Burisma, just as there are no nefarious mysteries about Hillary's emails. But launder it through a fake transparency organization like WikiLeaks, and the media will eat it up, gleefully generating damaging headlines with words like Ukraine and Biden. There's no thing of substance. Too smart than this. What's good, Joe Filthy? Any thoughts on who's winning the Iowa caucus? At this point, it looks like Bernie might win. It'd be nice if we could force people to watch both sides of the media news. I feel like many only study one side. 2020, if you want to send me articles, I'm happy to look at them. will be voting for in the primary. Where am I from? I'm from New Jersey. I'll be voting for Warren. Uh, we just looked at the numbers actually. It looks like Bernie for the Iowa caucus, at least on one of the polls, Bernie was at 20%, Warren's at 17, and Biden was at 15 or 16. So it's definitely gonna be close, and all of those are probably within margin of error. So who knows? Go back down. Yeah, if you guys want to post some of your articles, I mean, yeah, I mean polls are polls, right? I think Bernie will win the Connecticut state primary. I have no idea about that. You can look it up. Connecticut poll primary poll. Connecticut polls. Here's 538, but we all know what happened last time with 538. General presidential election. But we want the primary. This is the general election. Poll type. Democratic primary. Pollster was from Sacred Heart University. It's Biden at the top. Primary poll. The polls available. Real Clear Politics. Okay, presidential primary. Am I looking at the right thing here? The primary in our state is April. Do you realize how crazy the Iowa caucus? Do you believe Yang will come out on top? Yang's not coming out on top. I love Yang. I have a math poster from him. I don't think Yang's coming on top. It's just, yeah, it's not going to show you who's going to win the primary, but it might show like. Okay, I mean, we'll go back to it, right? Iowa Democratic primary. What was this? 11 hours ago.
Welcome back tonight in 2020
Show me the graphic.
Exactly 3 weeks until Bernie Sanders with so it's in the margin of error. And
Okay. Right here we have Biden at 24%, Sanders, Buttigieg, Warren. And here it gives us Sanders, Warren, Buttigieg, Biden. So these are the numbers that I was looking at before the Des Moines Register ones. Like, obviously these numbers are super crazy. But Yang is at like 5%, so he's not going to win this. Like, that would be huge. Any of these people could take the lead because their numbers are so close, right? That everything's within the margin of error, plus or not 9 minus 0.4 or 4.9. But Yang at 5%, I don't doesn't make much sense. I promise you, are they pulling the Russians at all? Yeah, good question. Who's ahead in Iowa? So this is 538. Okay. Like right now, so close. Any of these people could really take it, right? But Yang, according to Real Clear Politics, 538 is at 3.5%, so that's just not enough. It's gonna be one of these top four. If Buttigieg wins Iowa, that will be a crazy upset, I think, because people are gonna be like, "What?" But of course, you have to understand that Buttigieg is from Indiana, right? So he's probably gonna do well in Iowa. Rip Booker, yeah, I like Cory Booker. He's from New Jersey. Kind of Yang. All right, I'll just take your word for it. Yeah, that was the first thing I talked about today. Actually, that Cory Booker dropped out of the race. I mean, I didn't say much on it, but I like Cory Booker. He's a cool guy. He's from New Jersey. But you know, a lot of the Democrats on the left, it's like it's really hard to show any. There's not much light between them. They all have relatively similar policies, except for Yang, of course, who wants a UBI. Polls are not showing the truth. I mean, you can say that, but yeah, yeah, of course they're trying to paint a picture. Like that's what the polls are for, right? I mean, they're showing the truth in that they polled people, and this is what people said. So that's the truth. Now, can we project on what whoever they polled to the general populace? Well, we can do a little bit of projection, but we're not like it's not a guarantee, obviously. But when Yang is so far outside the margin of error, it seems unlikely. You know what's interesting this time around for the primaries? What's that? If it's not happening, and why the hell would I vote for Warren? What's not happening? Uh, I'd vote for Warren because I think Warren is probably one of the best candidates. I mean, if you want specifics, I mean, effectively Warren is like almost like Bernie light. I think that Warren has a better image than Bernie. I think a lot of people would be afraid to vote for Bernie because of his like socialist kind of characterization. Would vote for Warren because she has similar policies. I think that she can win the female vote better than winning Iowa. That might happen. But I don't know. I think Warren is kind of like almost like Bernie Light. Eh, They almost have the same policies, which is of course why they're not going to fight very much, right? I think some people are saying that Warren might be a little bit more hawkish in terms of foreign policy, but I'm not sure. I definitely think Warren could beat Trump. Yeah. Warren is like the smart Hillary Clinton, right? And she's not blonde either. So, you know what's interesting this time around for the primaries? That there are four top candidates, and last time there were three, right? Yeah. That's a good point. And then also Martin O'Malley like didn't really have much of a chance. Why don't you think Warren could beat Trump? I think Warren can win the female vote. Warren is extremely smart. Warren would stand up to Trump. She's quick as a whip. You know, if Trump says if Trump says something about Warren, she can snap right back. Warren is so much quicker than Hillary is. Like, do you remember when like Trump was like standing behind Hillary in the on the podium or whatever, and he was like acting like really creepy and weird? Like Warren would like yell at him and be like, Get the fuck back over to your podium" or something like that. Warren's super smart. She started the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Um, yeah, I think Warren's really good. Good job. Bernie Sanders doubles his lead over Donald Trump in hypothetical general election poll. Annie DeVito endorses Bernie Sanders. And Sanders is getting a lot of really strong endorsements though that Warren's not getting. Can I help? Barr and Pompeo shift justification for Iran. Imminent threat to deterrence. Pelosi prepares to name managers and send articles of impeachment. Okay. Trump taking credit for lower cancer death rate is absurd. America exists today to make war. Didn't have to marry a sugar daddy. Teachers outraged over pay rally in Florida Capitol. Lev Parnas shown in photo with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. Her policies will not produce the amount of money she needs to pay for her policies. I mean, the wealth tax. The wealth tax won't pay for it. Well, I mean, the wealth tax doesn't need to pay for everything, but the wealth tax is a really good idea. And obviously, like, I mean, we already have a progressive tax system, so like, we already have like a wealth tax in the fact that we have a progressive tax system. So the wealth tax is just kind of adding on it. I hope Warren does win. She will close down nuclear power plants in upstate New York. Uh, Oh, if Warren does win, she'll close it. That would be good, I guess. Although nuclear, I mean, good nuclear is relatively clean. The only reason Trump won was because of Hillary, and now you want to throw Warren at him? This is ridiculous, dude. I don't know what you mean. Are you just saying that like Warren is a weak candidate, or are you trying to draw comparisons between Warren and Hillary? Because I think they're pretty different people. Like, I think Hillary is a very weak candidate for a huge number of reasons. I mean, I think Hillary had like Benghazi. She had the whole like James Comey putting out the letter, like tons of stuff that was bad for Hillary, like the email scandal. You know, so much history. She had Bill Clinton. You know, uh, her policies were relatively vague at the time. People didn't really know what she stood for. She had a terrible, campaign slogan. It wasn't a well-run campaign. She didn't campaign Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Hillary was a strong candidate. Remember, she beat Bernie Sanders. Um, I don't know. I don't know that Hillary was that strong a candidate. Uh, she she had a lot of baggage, and Warren doesn't have that baggage. I don't know what you're saying. This isn't true. You're saying that it's not true that Hillary wasn't just a strong candidate, was a weak candidate. I'm so out of touch with reality. I mean, are you disagreeing that Hillary had a lot of baggage? I'm not. I just don't know what you're disagreeing with. Emails revealed U.S. Justice Department working closely with the oil industry to oppose climate lawsuits. Don't let Trump fool you into thinking he's improving healthcare. President says he saved Koreans existing conditions he's allowing. Is Trump on drugs? That's a good question. Find out. Go on. Those eyes. Picture's so edited, but like. What do you think? Is Trump on drugs? It's a question that's hovered around this president since he took office, and it's cropped up all over again. At least on the internet, after Trump's address to the nation. Yeah. Many perceive Trump as sniffling excessively and having difficulty articulating words during that speech, suggesting his pupils appear to be dilated. Taken as more evidence that this obese 73-year-old man does lines of Adderall all day to remain conscious, or is heavily tranquilized by his handlers to manage him, or perhaps both. This explains why Trump and Adderall are trending on social media, or tweets with self-reinforcing edifice of hashtag resistance Twitter. I presume, as a widely accepted fact, that the president is a patient of Dr. Feelgood, who is being kept marginally alive and functional with massive infusions of pharmaceuticals. What do you guys think? Is Trump on drugs? Hillary was strong candidate. America is obviously sexist. I now know this. I didn't before. I definitely agree America is sexist, but um, that being said, like I think that there were a lot of women who didn't vote for Hillary that would be willing to vote for Warren this time around, right? Um, and I don't think you haven't really disagreed with me so far that you're that Hillary had a lot of baggage. If Hillary was not for open border, I mean, nobody cares about this dude. And we don't have open borders. Just wait on a second. I'm also the most educated. You guys like act like all racists. The person who just never studied this does. Millions agree with me. So you're everyone know. Women voted for Trump because of their sexist husbands. Uh, that might be true, but what I'm saying is not that women voted for Trump, but what I'm saying is that there's a lot of women who probably didn't vote because they didn't like either choice, and I think there's a lot of women who would now vote for Warren, um, because Warren's a stronger woman in some sense. She's I mean she's not like literally stronger perhaps, but she might be perceived as a stronger woman. Depends on how much you know about Warren's history too. I mean, I think Hillary was, but the attempt at digging up baggage was the baggage, right? Like we don't even need to have actual baggage for there to be perceived baggage, right? Like Benghazi is baggage, right? Even if she came out scot free, Benghazi's baggage, right? Or the email scandal, even if she came out scot free, it was totally clean. It still feels like baggage. James Comey letter doesn't say anything specific, but still feels like baggage. I agree. Hillary would have been a great president. Like all we needed to do was stay the course, but we didn't. What really gets votes among white people is having a strong immigration policy? I mean, not necessarily like white people that are, you know, of your position, but just 63 million white people that voted for Hillary, or 65 or whatever. So no, what really got votes was whatever Hillary was doing. Did you notice? We got more votes on the left than on the right, so you're flat out wrong. It's pseudoephedrine. Yeah, that's definitely been going around. Psychoid edition extreme. Love removal. Unfortunately, America's sexist probably will vote in 100 way more make presidents before we've male presidents. So she would have the whole 2020. You're just not making sense. Go away. Uh, we're having two state elections in Connecticut today. Hmm. Which state elections? January 14th, special election calendar. What are you guys voting for? Ballotpedia, I think it's to replace Linda Orange in the state. Wait, was that just there? House? November 3rd. Special election. Following the resignation of Representative Kupchik to serve as the first select woman, a special election has been called to fill the vacancy in the 132nd State Representative District on January 14th. Voters who normally vote at Sherman Elementary School are eligible to participate. Voting will be held the same as regular election. Okay. Representative Kupchik. Brenda Kupchik. Looking. My shoes on. Oh. 150 state legislative districts in Connecticut? That's a lot. I think Georgia has the most legislative districts. Which state has the most state legislators? Minnesota has the largest state senate with 67 members. Oh wait. Oh, New Hampshire has the largest state house with 400 members. Interesting. New Hampshire's 400 members. Wow, it's a tiny state. Alright, what do you guys want to talk about? You want to talk about anything else? So there's another, there's a special election going on in Connecticut. That's it. If you PM me the link. If you PM me the link, I can take a look at it. Or you can put it in the Discord if you want. I think it's Brenda Kupchik. Latest data, which draws from surveys of more than 40,000 registered voters, showed that Sanders beating Trump by 4 percentage points, up from previous two. Although Biden still performed slightly better, 46% compared to 41%, Morning Consult noted that Sanders outperformed Biden among independents and young voters, or those aged 18 to 29.
Like putting CAs at our fingers.
Cancer, go away. Wow, crazy Bernie is surging in the polls, looking very good against his opponents in the do-nothing party. So what does this all mean? Stay tuned. Bernie, it means you're gonna lose. How do you PM me? Like click on my name. Like, can you do it if I click it? It's like click on my name, and then click message, I think. Or you can type it in the Discord. Let's tell Democratic colleagues Tuesday morning, closed door meeting in Capitol Hill. She won't announce impeachment managers during that meeting. According to his familiar with the marks. Plans told Democrats she plans to discuss plans. Plans to discuss plans. Sending over articles of impeachment. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. Whenever this happens, obviously, it's gonna be a new turning point. Emails revealed the U.S. Justice Department working closely with the oil industry to oppose climate lawsuits. DOJ attorneys describe working with industry lawyers as a team, raising questions about whether the government was representing the American people. In another email, Assistant U.S. Attorney General referred to the DOJ attorneys and industry lawyers, many of them former DOJ environmental lawyers, as a team. Messages were among 178 pages of emails exchanged by government and industry from February to May 2018 as they worked together to oppose the city's lawsuits. They're obtained by the Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC, under a Federal Freedom of Information Act request. Although the emails do not reveal the substance of discussions that took place during the meetings, they bespeak the unapologetically close relationship between the Trump administration and the oil industry. They also provide a window into the closely coordinated efforts to block climate lawsuits between industry and the Justice Department's Environmental Division, which touts itself as the nation's environmental lawyer and the largest environmental law firm in the country. Legal experts say the conversations raised questions about the federal government's objectivity and whether the Department of Justice in these cases was acting in the best interest of the country's people. Because the emails do not reflect the substance of the meetings, Justin Lovett, a law professor at Loyola Law School in Los Angeles, said it's difficult to assess whether the ethical lines are crossed. If the meetings discuss the logistics of a DOJ amicus filing, but not the substance of what the DOJ would file, it may be reason to raise an eyebrow, but not a red flag. It would be unusual and trigger questions if the meetings delved into issues raised in the lawsuits, said Smith, a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General in DOJ's Civil Rights Division. It wouldn't pass the sniff test if the DOJ was trying to address substantive issues, said, but if the meetings were about logistics, there's nothing improper. No similar conversations with the critics. Pete Huffman, staff attorney for NRDC, acknowledged that the emails offered just a glimpse into behind-the-scenes action, but says they're enough to raise serious questions. We would expect them to be working in what they think are the best interests of the United States, he said. We don't think that working with the industry against climate action in most of these places is in the best interest of the United States. Especially worrisome is the apparent one-sided coordination of the industry, said Hoffman, who signed an amicus brief filed by NRDC on behalf of the city. We don't know all the facts from these documents, but it starts to look less like they're trying to get the best interest of the United States and more coordinating the best interest of it. The conclusion of favoritism cannot be discounted because the emails do not reflect an attempt by DOJ to contact either the cities of Oakland or San Francisco. I can tell you for sure that DOJ never reached out for us, said Alex Katz, chief of staff for Oakland city attorney. The same for San Francisco city attorney, city attorney's office, said spokesman John Copeland. Oh, you PMing the link? Sorry. I was just.
Foreign administration, would your vice president child be allowed to serve on a board?
No. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the.
Wait, what was the question? Owen Warren, would your
Foreign administration, would your
vice president child
be allowed to serve on a board?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the details on
Do you
the
think
plan.
that could be a problem?
I have to go back and look.
It certainly has a bad look to it if a direct family member of a sitting president or vice president's on the board of a for-profit company. In my mind, they can wait until the term is over before serving that term, and that's certainly the way it would be under my administration. At a minimum, it looks like it could influence an administration in ways that benefit the family.
Turns out that Elizabeth Warren's daughter is a chair for Demos. According to Sheridan, the think tank Demos gave the WFP Working Families Party $45,000 in 2017 to 2018. Warren's daughter, Amelia, is the chairwoman of Demos, although she is not currently listed on the think tank's website.
An endorsement from the Working Families Party. They are a progressive group that had previously...
Well, it's not surprising that they're going to give a
2016
endorsement.
So should workers here in Ohio not be worried about losing their jobs to automation?
So the data show that we've had a lot of problems with losing jobs, but the principal reason has been bad trade policy.
Senator Warren,
Well, I don't know how many jobs this is replacing. It's just kind of a meme.
About automation, and they're smart. They see what's happening around them. Their Main Street stores are closing. They see a self-serve kiosk in every McDonald's, every grocery store, every CVS. Driving a truck is the most common job in 29 states, including this one.
Yep.
3.5 million truck drivers in this country.
Yep.
And my friends in California are piloting self-driving trucks. What is that going to mean for the 3.5 million truckers or the 7 million Americans who work in truck stops, motels, and diners that rely upon the truckers getting out and having a meal? Saying this is a rules problem is ignoring the reality that Americans see around us every single day.
Senator Warren, respond, please.
Oh, you guys can't see this, can you? My bad, my bad. Give me 1 second. Can you guys see now? Maybe? Yes, no? Can you guys see this video? I think you can. Okay. Alright, we're gonna go back, but we're just gonna watch it on double speed because I don't want to watch 11 minutes right now. Turn it up.
No, I don't know. I mean, I have to go back and look at the details on the plan. I have to go back and look.
It certainly has a bad look to it if a direct family member of a sitting president or vice president's on the board of a for-profit company. In my mind, they can wait until the term is over before serving that term, and that's certainly the way it would be under my administration. At a minimum, it
Is this
looks
too
like
fast for you
it
guys?
influences administration in ways that benefit the family.
Turns out that Elizabeth Warren's daughter is a chair for Demos. According to Sheridan, the think tank Demos gave the WFP Working Families Party $45,000 in 2017 to 2018. Warren's daughter, Amelia, is the chairwoman of Demos, although she's not currently listed on the think tank's website.
An endorsement from the Working Families Party. They are a progressive group that had previously given its support to Bernie Sanders in 2016.
So should workers here in Ohio not be worried about losing their jobs to automation?
So the data show that we've had a lot of problems with losing jobs, but the principal reason has been bad trade policy.
Senator Warren, I've been talking to Americans around the country about automation, and they're smart. They see what's happening around them. Their Main Street stores are closing. They see a self-serve kiosk in every McDonald's, every grocery store, every CVS. Driving a truck is the most common job in 29 states, including this one. 3.5 million truck drivers in this country, and my friends in California are piloting self-driving trucks. What is that going to mean for the 3.5 million truckers or the 7 million Americans who work in truck stops, motels, and diners that rely upon the truckers getting out and having a meal? Saying this is a rules problem is ignoring the reality that Americans see around us every single day.
Senator Warren, respond, please.
So actually, I think the thing closest to the universal basic income is Social Security. After a lifetime of hard work, people are entitled to retire with dignity. Add $200 to the payment of every person who receives Social Security right now. That $200 a month will lift nearly 5 million families out of poverty. After a lifetime of hard work, it also has a provision for your wife, for those who stay home to do caregiving for children or for seniors, and creates an opportunity for them to get credit on their Social Security. After a lifetime of hard work, people are entitled to retire with dignity.
Thank you, Senator
I
Warren.
see this as an important question, but I want to understand the data on this.
Your time is up.
What about the aging crisis that could be on the horizon?
Slow down. Okay. Well, we're back where we started. I totally agree with Yang. I've agreed with UBI. I think Yang's UBI doesn't go far enough. My problem with Yang is that I don't think it's very politically feasible right now. I don't think enough people are going to vote Yang in. I don't think enough people are going to be comfortable with the UBI. So, I mean, my problem. I think UBI should be at $2,000 a month. I'm like a huge proponent of UBI, but I just don't think it's politically feasible right now. So I kind of have to, behave with the praxis. I'll go down to like 1.5.
Well, the freedom dividend would stack on top of Social Security, would be, in essence, the greatest expansion of Social Security benefit in generations. And I agree with you 100% that we have a massive crisis on our hands because half of Americans will never retire. They'll never have the savings. And do you all want to live in a country where Americans are just working themselves to death until the day they die? When you go into a convenience store, it's going to be a scene.
I'm saying the plan itself, the UBI itself is feasible, but but it's not politically feasible to get it done. It would be very difficult to get a UBI passed. Even with Yang as president, it would be very difficult to get UBI passed. You have to go through Congress, right? It's really difficult. Take a lot of work.
Senior citizen trying to make ends meet instead of a teenager working for a discretionary income. That is the economy we are in right now. And so if you believe that we have massive opportunities and a lot of work to do to try to help our seniors.
I mean, you can disagree, but tell me why you disagree, right? Don't just disagree, tell me why.
Stay healthy and strong and actually build organizations around meeting those needs, then there needs to be resources around those problems. And the freedom dividend will help move us in that direction in a much more real way than anything else we can do for seniors.
I'm a PhD candidate and teaching assistant here in the mathematics department.
Whoa, math! Wow,
I was really excited to hear that you loved math. So.
I do. In fact, I want you to do this. Go to my website, look at our plans, and add up the math. It actually adds up. It's amazing. All I'm saying is, you make it to the top 1/10 of 1%, then pitch in 2 cents so every other kid in America has a chance to make it.
Senator Warren is 100% right that we're in the midst of the most extreme winner-take-all economy in history. And a wealth tax makes a lot of sense in principle. The problem is that it's been tried in Germany, France.
Wait, why doesn't you need Congress to get it passed? You can't do a UBI with executive action. I'm pretty sure you can't do a UBI with executive action.
Denmark, Sweden, and all those countries ended up repealing it because it had massive implementation problems and did not generate the revenue that they projected. If we can't learn from the failed experiences of other countries, what can we learn from? We should not be looking to other countries' mistakes. Instead, we should look at what Germany, France, Denmark, and Sweden still have, which is a value-added tax. If we give the American people a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every robot truck mile, every Facebook ad, we can generate hundreds of billions of dollars and then put it into our hands because we know best.
I mean, there's a lot of dangers doing it by executive action. First of all, you look like a dictator. Second of all, I mean, you look like a benevolent dictator, but you look like a dictator, right? Controlling that much money, like Congress has the power of the purse, right? Yes, that was going to be my third point. But the second point is that Congress has the power of the purse, right? So, executive action would probably not be able to be done because you're redirecting so much money from one portion of the budget to another portion to the people that that probably violates separation of powers and power of the purse. So you probably can't do it by executive action. But even if you could do it by executive action, right, it could be just wiped out by the next president, right? And that would be really bad for the UBI because one of the most important parts about the UBI is that people need to know that that income is going to be guaranteed for the foreseeable future. They need to know that they can count on this, not just 4 years down the line, but 30 years down the line. Because otherwise, people will treat the UBI entirely differently. Congress might pass it. Depends on how much of a sweep we get. If we swept the House and the Senate, then I could totally see Congress passing it. But it's just going to be really hard either way, because there's a lot of political uproar about it.
That's how to use it.
Can I ask you to do some quick math for us?
Sure.
Okay. How many adults in the United States would be eligible for this $12,000 a year?
About 200 million.
200 million times $12,000 a year.
2.4 trillion.
2.4 trillion a year this would cost.
So why that tax? Senator Warren's wealth tax projected to raise 2.75 trillion.
Wait, it's not just UBI, it's all his policies? I mean, UBI is like 90% of Andrew Yang's policies, right?
Over 10 years, which is like $275 billion a year, and the VAT I'm suggesting raises about 3 times that. So the 3 things. Number one, if you want to, you can tailor a VAT where you can exempt consumer staples and have it fall more heavily on luxury goods or certain industries. Number two, we all know I'm trying to give every American $1,000 a month, which even if you assumed a degree of impact from the VAT would increase the buying power of the bottom 94% of Americans. But number 3, the fundamental challenge we have in the US is that we have this tax system that is being gamed to incredible degrees. So you have a $1 trillion tech company like Amazon that's now closing 30% of American stores and malls, literally paying 0 in taxes. Now that should not be. Most Americans could agree like you have a messed up system if that's the case. And the biggest myth in American life right now is that we don't have the money. We're the richest country in the history of humanity, over $20 trillion in GDP, up $5 trillion in the last 10 years. And so there's this incredibly untrue narrative, and it's punishing us all. We're looking around and saying like, where's the money going? Where's the money going? The money is going into the hands of a smaller and smaller number of companies and individuals in this country, and they're so powerful that they actually manage to keep real reform off the agenda. That's what's going on right now in our society. We have to go where the money is, and it's not each other. It's not like if I tax the town dentist more, like that's going to solve the problem.
Did you convince me? I guess I see.
I still can't get around why you're so averse to a wealth tax.
Fellas, I'm gonna show you a legal
Okay.
I mean, I haven't disagreed with anything. Maybe we'll do a stream soon where we go into each candidate's policies, because I feel like I'm having these discussions more and more every day, and we just need to discuss the policies for extended periods of times. I think that would be a good stream.
But okay, Joe, I'll be right back. I will show you. Do like Yang. Oh. Need a longer cable. Alright, look right here. See this right here? It's the Andrew Yang math poster. Ah. This is an Andrew Yang t-shirt I was wearing the other day. So, I like Yang. I think he's a good candidate. I have to be realistic with myself. I don't think that he has too much of a chance right now at winning this election, at winning the primary. I think it's just gonna be really hard, you know? I like a lot of his policies. I don't think he goes far enough with the UBI. Right. Like, I just don't think that it's politically viable right now. Someday, maybe next time around, he can do it. I think Yang's biggest, my favorite thing about him is that he has put the UBI on people's minds. Like, we were never going to get the UBI passed or a president running on UBI the first time around, because it's just so politically extreme to the majority of people. And it's a hard argument to make. A lot of people do like it, right? But it's got to grow in popularity over time. So it probably won't be this time around, but it'll be next time around. I gotta get this guy's face off of. You're not gonna vote for Bernie or Warren? If it's Bernie or Warren or Trump, would you vote Bernie or Warren? You'd vote Trump over Bernie or Warren? Or you'd vote Bernie or Warren? If Bernie or Warren run primary, will not be voting? Seriously? After all you've said so far, I thought for sure you'd be voting for Democrat no matter what. Because not voting might be a vote for Trump. Any Mike Bloomberg is spending a lot of money on false advertising ads versus pre-existing. First, let's break this down. Trump is not the person to say pre-existing conditions. All healthcare plans in the Affordable Health Care Act marketplace are required by law as enacted by Obama to cover pre-existing conditions. Said the Obamacare repeal bills that Trump has supported, including the 2017 skinny repeal, would have gutted coverage for pre-existing conditions to varying degrees. Trump has also extended the duration of short-term junk insurance plans that do not have to comply with the ACA's protections for people with pre-existing.
So you Yang. So you're only Yang voter? Nobody should vote Tom Steyer. Ugh. Alright, well, I think that's it for the morning news. We've gone through our politics pretty far. I gotta get some food. I am hungry. But thank you guys for stopping in. Good talking with you, Joe. Anyone else here? Tattoo Lover. Who else is here? Tony, thanks for stopping in, even though I think your views are cancer. Guess what? If he loses, he'll be back. I can't say that for Sanders. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Sanders is just kind of getting old, you know. I don't think he can hold on too much longer. But I hope he runs again. I hope he runs in 4 years. Yeah. I think it'd be I think he has a really good shot in 4 years of doing really, really well. Especially because he's an outsider candidate. Although of course he could run for you know, like Senate, or he could run for, you know, the House or something like that. That would be interesting also. Alright dude, good talking with you. I might be on at some other point today, but probably not. Maybe, we'll see. Peace. Y'all have a good one.